Hello everyone and welcome back to NFLTV. I'm Samuel Zito, joined this evening again by Ramon Pinataro. Ramon, a pretty amazing round 12. It was some surprise results. I know personally of the 5 games I tipped one winner, that being Montmorency getting over the top of the Eltham Football Club. Pretty remarkable, and it certainly throws open the ladder again. McLeod's back in finals contention, and that wooden spoon battle is going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, I was hoping for an epic win just to keep their chances alive in the relegation spot. Also, fantastic wins to West Preston Lakeside and the McLeod Footy Club. Great win to Heidelberg, bouncing back, so it should be an interesting week this week.
Certainly makes for an interesting run home to the finals. We're now 2/3 through the season, and Montmorency's got a pretty strong hold on first place on the ladder. They take on Heidelberg this week. You'd think if Monty gets the victory that they will win the minor premiership this year, but all other positions are certainly up for grabs, and it's going to go right down to the wire, as we say, and almost similar to last year, that relegation battle could come down to the final quarter of the season. This weekend there's some massive games, and there's none bigger than Heidelberg taking on the Montmorency Football Club. The Tigers are third, the Magpies are first, still undefeated. Heidelberg's certainly getting back into some great form. They've had the resurgence, they've won 3 games on the trot against really good opposition. I think that win against Bandura is their best win of the season.
I certainly would agree with that, but also let's note that they did have a really big wake-up call against Lower Plenty after that loss by 7 points. They've bounced back by defeating Northcote Park, defeating Bundoora on the weekend. And tell you the truth, I think they're going to actually be a big chance to defeat. I'm going to be going with Heidelberg to beat Montmorency.
I'm actually going for Heidelberg as well. I think on their home paddock, they at the weekend reversed that form that they had against Bundoora, that loss they had against Bundoora earlier in the season. I think back in round 7 where they were 6 goals up and lost by 6 goals, and they were sensational on the weekend. But for inaccurate kicking early on, when they fell, I think it was 3 or 4 goals down early, but they had some chances they missed. Thereafter, they were sensational. Sargent kicked 5. Lance Oswald is almost a barometer of that side now. When he plays good footy, Heidelberg's certainly up and about. He kicked 5, including 3 in the final quarter. And I genuinely think that they'll beat Montmorency this week and give them their first loss of the year. And that's no disrespect to Montmorency. I think they're playing some great football, but I just think Heidelberg's time is now. They see this as an opportunity to really cement a double chance in the finals. And I just think, given the fact it's at Warringal Park, I know Montmorency beat them there last year, but I think Heidelberg will win that game there. Having said that, Montmorency was all class in the second half against Eltham, trailed at half time, but thereafter just far too strong for their local neighbour.
Yes, they certainly were, and it was obviously we've been noticed that Eltham normally play pretty well against Montmorency at the Montmorency footy ground, but it was a close battle, but they got the points in the end. So I think I think it'll be an interesting battle against Heidelberg, but I honestly do think Heidelberg will get up.
It's pretty amazing still how well Montmorency score from week to week. Another 20 goals at the weekend, and as you say, against an Eltham side which had good form on it at Montmorency Park. The Panthers had won the previous 3 games and went into half time with a 2-point lead as well. So thereafter, Montmorency able to kick 13 goals to 6, just far too strong on that home ground. But I'm just predicting this could be the week where they get their first loss of 2013. The second game for us to take a look at, well, this is an important game in terms of both sides' finals chances, and I didn't think I'd be saying this a fortnight ago, but it's McLeod taking on the West Preston Lakeside Football Club, the game to be played at De Winton Park. McLeod's all of a sudden reached a really good vein of form, very close to beating Bundoora a week prior, losing by 5 points. They come out a week later and defeat the reigning premiers away from home at Bill Laurie Oval, and conversely, West Preston Lakeside defeated Eltham a couple of weeks back. They've now beaten Greensborough as well. They've beaten 2 sides that they're really vying for that 5th spot with, and now they're within percentage of sitting inside the top 5. This is a side at round 4 which we were talking about as potentially being a wooden spoon candidate.
Yeah, both sides, as I said, we'll probably look at the relegation period at one point. McLeod's in particular, I've been quite impressed with them. They have bounced back. A big win against there, being followed though, nearly defeated Bundoora, and then a big win again last Saturday against the Northcote Park outfit. I'm going to be going with McLeod playing at home, and expect them to have a good win.
Yeah, McLeod's an interesting prospect because you go back and look at their results, and they were obviously close against Bundoora, losing by 5 points. Had their chances against Eltham, a late miss to Kahal course stopped their comeback, and also a loss to West Preston early in the year where they were pretty inaccurate. You give them 2 of those wins, and they're probably inside of the top 5. Conversely, West Preston Lakeside just almost snuck under the radar to some extent, and they've started to record some really good wins, remembering also that they lost to Heidelberg by 5 points earlier in the year. That result goes the other way. If they get up by a point, say, they're in the top 5 as well. So both sides in pretty good form, and this one here is a massive game as both sides look to get some action in September. So a big game there, and that will most likely be the radio call as well, depending on some technical work down at the ground as well, but most likely the radio game as well. So do tune in from 88.6 Plenty Valley FM from 1 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. Eltham and Northcote Park meet at Eltham Central Reserve, and this game here has all of a sudden a lot more importance for Northcote Park than we previously felt. Had the slip up at the weekend. They also lost to Heidelberg 2 weeks back, so they've won just one of their past 3 games, 8-4, and losing touch with the top 3. A massive game for them as they try to get that double chance in September. We know that they last year were able to win the premiership from 4th place, but certainly this year you would have thought that they'd have to be in the top 3 to go back to back.
I certainly would agree with that, and it's quite funny how footy just changes. We saw the Northcote Park Heidelberg match. Had they won that match, Northcote Park would be 2 games clear and percentage, I believe, in 3rd place. Now with a loss all of a sudden, and then a loss of McLeod, all of a sudden now they're facing down 4th place. It's going to be an interesting battle. Also, Eltham haven't been playing the great the past couple of weeks, and I'll be going with Northcote Park to win this one. I remember last time they did win by 6 goals.
Both sides injury riddled at the moment, has to be said. At the weekend, Northcote Park, no Mitch Pappas, Nick Carter didn't play. They had a couple of genuine guns out of the side, so that didn't help their cause. On the flip side, Eltham's in a pretty similar position where Steve Foster's still making that long road back from injury. Their number 1 ruckman, Lockie Richardson's out. A number of players still to come back into the side. Brendan O'Sullivan, another one. So both sides won't be at full strength for the game, but it's a really important one. I remember the 2 sides played each other at a similar time last year at Eltham, and that was one of the games of the year, a high-scoring shootout, and one of the ones that really got Northcote Park going in the back end of the year. This one's massive. It's 4th versus 5th, and certainly for Northcote Park, a win would really elevate their top 3 hopes, and for Eltham, a win would certainly keep their spot inside of the top 5. So plenty at stake for both of those teams. Lower Plenty and Greensborough is the 4th game we take a look at. And for Greensborough, a disappointing loss because they were favourites going in against West Preston Lakeside. They performed pretty well against some of the top 4 sides. Here, a game where they went in as the favourites, and they didn't quite stack up as such, and went down to a close loss, but nevertheless, in this year's finals campaign, it's a loss they couldn't afford to have. Lower Plenty in a similar boat. They couldn't afford that loss to Epping. Went down by 19 points, and now again they're a genuine threat of being relegated back to Division 2.
Yeah, they will be, and had they won that game against Epping, you would have thought they pretty much would have wrapped up a spot in Division 1 for next season. As for Greensborough, so they'll look back at the end of the season, a crucial loss to West Preston Lakeside. I think it's actually quite a dangerous game for Greensborough against Lower Plenty. I'm still going to be sticking with Greensborough. I think they'll bounce back, but I really honestly think it can go either way.
I completely agree, and I think Lower Plenty is going to be burning from last week. I'm sure one thing you can bet your bottom dollar on is they don't have a slower start as they had at the weekend. They were pretty woeful in that first quarter. Epping kicked 4 goals in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game, led by 36 points, and when you're playing catch-up footy, it's always really tough. Some inaccurate kicking on goal really cost Lower in the last quarter, but when you trail all day, you always make the job so much harder for yourself when you have a quarter like that one, 7 goals to 1 in the first quarter. Well, the positive for Greensborough was 5 goals to Josh Grubb. Boyden kicked another 3, so that forward line functioning well. But in the end, a disappointing loss. It was only by 2 goals, but that was the same side that they beat by 9 goals earlier in the season as well. So they slipped down to 7th on the ladder, their lowest position so far this year, and they simply must win this game if they're going to play finals this year. And the 5th and final game for this round is Bundoora taking on the Epping Football Club. Bundoora, they've also got their injury concerns at the weekend. Ricky Dyson was out. We believe he'll miss up to a month of football. Braden Shaw was hurt in the game. Michael Farrelly didn't take his place in the starting lineup, and all of that amounted to a pretty decent loss to Heidelberg in the end after leading early on. On the contrary, Epping had a great win, and their confidence must be up now. They know that they're still within a chance of playing in Division 1 next year. It's down to 4.6% at the moment, 4.9% rather, at the moment, so not much separating. I'm sure Epping's going to go into this game with high on confidence, but at the very least looking for a competitive loss just to make sure that they keep that percentage up in the back end of the year.
Yeah, certainly, and I want to personally congratulate Mario Bandera for his hard work. Obviously, again, it was a great win. We've been quite relieved with that. As for Bundoora, you mentioned they have got some injuries, but looking at their reserve side, I believe they're undefeated, so they're actually quite strong in the reserves team, so you think they can bring some players up. As for the game itself, I'm hoping Epping will be more than competitive. I'm going to be going with Bundoora, but yeah, it should be an interesting game.
Just on Epping, there was some great form shown by Josh Tatino around the goals at the weekend. He was best on ground for mine, kicked 3 goals, really dangerous, but some of the older hands, John Cruiser was great in the ruck, really won that ruck battle against Patrick Flynn. Daniel Moore played a great game, and some unheralded players really stood up as well. Sean Bolger gave them a marking option going inside forward 50, and Cameron Brown also played a good game, pretty lively around the half-forward flank. So they've got some players who are certainly starting to step up in Division 1 football, and it always reminds you of Lower Plenty last year, doesn't it? That they're starting to win the games down the back end of the year. All of a sudden there's genuine hope again, and this is a big test for them coming up against the 2011 Division 1 premiers. That's all we have time for in Division 1. We'll next take a look at Division 2 and Division 3, where certainly the top four sides are starting to emerge from the pack as they make their charge towards September.